Welcome to my channel Green Screen Reactor. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. In the year 3050, Earth was a different place. Huge cities reached for the sky, filled with bright lights and flying cars. But beyond the borders of Earth, in the vastness of space, new worlds were discovered. Some of these worlds were beautiful, while others were filled with danger. One of those worlds was called Zephyria. On Zephyria, a young alien warrior named Nyra stood tall among her people. She had striking green skin and bright yellow eyes that sparkled like stars. Nyra was strong and skilled, known for her unmatched talent with throwing spears. Her people believed in an ancient law that shaped their lives. This law stated that whoever caught a spear thrown by an alien warrior would become theirs forever. One sunny day, Nyra and her friends, Jax and Luma, prepared for the annual Arena Games. The Arena Games were a celebration, and many warriors gathered to show their skills. Earthlings and Zephyrians would compete together for the first time, building a bridge of friendship between their worlds. A spaceship flew into the Zephyrian sky. Inside, a young Earthman named Tom gazed out, excitement bubbling inside him. He had trained hard for this day, learning about the games and the culture of Zephyria. Tom was brave, with short brown hair and bright blue eyes filled with wonder. He wanted to prove himself in the arena. As the spaceship landed, Tom stepped out and was welcomed by the cheers of the crowd. He felt nervous, but excited. The beautiful landscape, with its towering blue mountains and shining rivers, took his breath away. The games began, and Tom watched as Nyra showed off her incredible skill. She threw her spear with lightning speed, hitting targets with perfect accuracy. The crowd roared in approval, and Tom clapped his hands, feeling a sense of admiration for her. When it was Tom's turn, he had to show his own abilities in a different way. He faced off against several other warriors in friendly combat. With quick movements and clever strategies, he managed to win his first round. The audience cheered for him, their excitement growing. As the games progressed, Nyra felt more drawn to Tom. He was brave, and his determination reminded her of her own spirit. She wanted to meet him, but she did not know how. Just then, the tournament reached its climax. The final challenge was announced, a contest of skill and strength. The challenge was simple. Each warrior would throw a spear against their opponent. If the opponent caught the spear, they would be bound to the thrower by ancient law. Nyra volunteered to throw the first spear. She stepped forward, her heart racing. She focused on Tom, who stood across from her, a friendly smile on his face. With a graceful motion, Nyra unleashed her spear. It flew through the air, glimmering in the sunlight. In that moment, time seemed to slow down for Tom. He could see the spear coming straight toward him. He took a deep breath, reached out his hand, and against all odds, caught the spear. The crowd exploded in cheers, but for Nyra, time stopped as she gazed at Tom in shock. According to the ancient law, he had caught her spear, and now she was bound to him forever. Nyra felt a rush of emotions. She was surprised, excited, and a little scared. Could she really accept this? Could a warrior like her be bound to an earthling? Tom realized what had happened. He looked at Nyra with curiosity and warmth. "What now?" he asked, his voice steady but filled with questions. Nyra took a step closer, her heart pounding. In that moment, she remembered the stories of her ancestors and the honor of the bond she had just formed. "This means we are now connected," she said, her voice gentle yet strong. "I am yours, and you are mine, as the law commands." Tom smiled, feeling a rush of happiness and pride. "I never expected this, but I am honored. Let's explore this together and learn from each other," he replied. Jax and Luma cheered loudly from the sidelines. "You two are perfect for each other," Luma laughed. Jax added with a grin, "Together you will be a force to reckon with." The games concluded, but a new journey began for Nyra and Tom. They spent the following days sharing stories about their worlds. Tom taught Naira about Earth and its wonders: tall trees, vast oceans, and colorful cities. In return, Naira showed Tom the beauty of Zephyria, the shimmering lakes, dancing lights of the night sky, and the thrill of riding the speedy Zephyrian creatures. One day, as they walked through a garden filled with strange flowers that glowed in different colors, Naira looked at Tom seriously. "Do you understand the weight of this bond? It is not just about catching a spear. It is a commitment for life." Tom nodded thoughtfully. "I want to know you, not just as a warrior, but as a person. I want to support you in everything." Their friendship deepened, and soon it blossomed into something more. They faced challenges together, learning to bridge their cultural gaps. Sometimes misunderstandings arose, but they communicated openly and learned to see the world through each other's eyes. As they trained together, Tom found he had a talent for spear throwing. Naira, on the other hand, discovered she could learn to appreciate Earth's technology and different ways of life. The bond they formed was unlike any other. The ancient law had brought them together, but it was their mutual respect, curiosity, and love that held them close. Months passed, and then it arrived. A grand ceremony was held to celebrate the unity of Earth and Zephyria through Tom and Naira. People cheered for the pair as they announced their partnership to the world. It was a new beginning, and together they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Naira smiled brightly, watching as the crowd waved and cheered. She held Tom's hand tightly. The alien warrior and Earthman stood united, a symbol of hope and harmony in a diverse universe. From that day onward, they journeyed together. Their adventures were filled with surprises, laughter, and the promise of forever, proving that sometimes the most unexpected events lead to the greatest changes in life. The crimson sun dipped below the jagged peaks of Xylos, casting long shadows across the desolate landscape. Jax, a young human explorer, stumbled through the alien terrain, his breath ragged. He'd been separated from his team during a sandstorm, his advanced tracking device fried by a rogue bolt of Xylosian lightning. He was alone, lost, and utterly terrified. He'd heard the legends, of course. Whispers of the Xylar, fierce warrior women of the Crimson Planet, their skin like polished obsidian, their eyes burning like twin embers. They were protectors of the ancient ruins, guardians of secrets lost to time. And now, here he was, face to face with one. She emerged from behind a colossal, petrified tree, her form silhouetted against the fading light. Tall and imposing, she was clad in shimmering black armor, intricate carvings adorning its surface. A spear, tipped with a shimmering, crystalline point, was clutched in her strong hand. Her eyes, as he'd heard, were like burning coals, scanning him with an intensity that made his heart pound in his chest. Jax held his hands up, palms open, a universal sign of peace. He spoke slowly, carefully, in Galactic Common, the most widely understood language in the known galaxy. "I mean you no harm," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "I am lost. My name is Jax." The Xylar didn't respond immediately. She studied him, her gaze piercing, assessing. Then, with a sudden fluid movement, she hurled the spear. It whistled through the air, a deadly projectile aimed straight at his heart. Jax reacted instinctively. He'd spent years training in hand-to-hand combat and survival skills, but nothing had prepared him for this. He sidestepped the initial trajectory, the spear passing dangerously close to his shoulder. But he didn't flinch. He lunged, his hand closing around the spear's shaft just inches from the crystalline tip. He held it, the spear's weight surprisingly balanced in his grasp, the crystalline tip glittering under the crimson light. He looked up at the Xylar, his breath catching in his throat. Her expression was unreadable, a mask of stoic composure. But there was a flicker, a tiny shift in her eyes, a hint of something. Surprise. Silence hung heavy in the air, broken only by the mournful whisper, of the Xylosian wind. Then, a low hum resonated from the Xylar, a sound that seemed to vibrate deep within Jax's bones. It was a communication, a language far older than Galactic Common, a language of vibration and feeling. A figure emerged from behind the Xylar, small and frail, leaning heavily on a staff. It was an older Xylar, her armor worn and tarnished, her movements slow and deliberate. She spoke in halting Galactic Common, her voice raspy but firm. "By ancient law," she said, her gaze fixed on the spear in Jax's hand, "she who throws the spear, and he who catches it, they are bound, forever." Jax looked from the elder Xylar to the warrior. The warrior's face, still impassive, remained hidden within the shadows of her helmet, but Jax felt the tension ease in her posture. The elder Xylar continued. "The spear represents a challenge. The act of catching it displays courage and honor. A bond is forged, one of protection and loyalty." The younger Xylar, whose name Jax later learned was Lyra, remained silent, her gaze fixed on him. He could see the faintest hint of something akin to respect, perhaps even curiosity, in her eyes. He felt a strange sense of calm settle over him. He had faced death, and somehow he'd survived. Not only that, he'd unexpectedly been granted something extraordinary. The elder Xylar, whose name was Ilara, guided them to a hidden cave, its entrance concealed by shimmering vines. Inside, the air was warm and dry, a stark contrast to the harshness of the outer world. Ilara explained the customs of the Xylar, a culture deeply intertwined with their planet's ancient history. They were protectors, guardians of a powerful energy source hidden deep beneath the surface of Xylos, a source that had the potential to revolutionize galactic power, but also held the risk of unleashing devastating destruction. Lyra, still silent, but attentive, watched him as he spoke to Ilara, her sharp gaze following his every move. They spent days in the cave, Jax sharing stories of his world, of Earth, of his own people, and Lyra listening intently, her obsidian eyes reflecting the flickering light of their fire. He learned of her people, their traditions, their struggles. He learned that the spear, while a symbol of challenge, was also a sacred object, imbued with the spirit of Xylos. Jax, in turn, learned of the vast knowledge they held, their deep connection to the planet and its ancient energies. It was a connection he felt drawn to, a respect he hadn't encountered before. He learned that the bond they shared wasn't just a physical one. It was a spiritual connection, a deep understanding between two beings from vastly different worlds. Over time, Lyra's stoicism melted away, revealing a playful, inquisitive spirit hidden beneath her warrior facade. She laughed, a sound like wind chimes in the night, sharing her knowledge, her wisdom. They explored the caverns together, Jax's scientific knowledge proving useful in unraveling the mysteries hidden within the ancient ruins. He found himself captivated by her fierce loyalty, her unwavering strength, and the fierce intelligence that lay beneath her calm exterior. The crimson sun rose and set many times. Jax, who was once a lost explorer, was now a vital part of the Xylar tribe, a protector of Xylos, bound to Lyra by an ancient law, a law of respect, loyalty, and a love forged under the crimson skies of a strange and wonderful world. Their story, a tale of a thrown spear and a caught fate, became a legend whispered across the desolate plains of Xylos, a testament to a bond formed under the harshest of circumstances, a bond that defied the odds, a love as vast and enduring as the crimson desert itself. In a distant star system, on a planet named Zathara, life thrived in ways that Earth could never comprehend. The skies shimmered with hues of violet and green, and the air smelled of sweet spices. On this planet lived the Zatharans, a race of tall, slender beings with emerald skin. Among them was a warrior named Lyra, known for her strength and courage. She was the mightiest in her clan, often tasked with protecting her people from dangers that lurked in the countless forests. One day, While gathering herbs on the edge of the Miras forest, Lyra spotted strange figures moving among the trees. With her sharp senses, she felt something was off. Unbeknownst to her, those figures were space explorers from Earth, having crash-landed in their spacecraft. Nathan, a young and brave astronaut, led the group of explorers. Sarah, a scientist, and John, an engineer. After their ship was destroyed, they wandered the forest, searching for help. As night fell, the Earth explorers found themselves lost and surrounded by the eerie sounds of creatures hiding in the shadows. Nathan, determined to lead his friends to safety, decided to climb a small hill for a better view. From the top, he saw strange glowing lights in the distance, perhaps a village. Heart pounding with hope, he began to descend. At the same moment, Lyra observed Nathan's silhouette against the bright lights of her village. Mistaking him for a threat to her people, she quietly approached, holding her spear tight. The ancient laws of her people were clear. Any intruder must be challenged. In the blink of an eye, she hurled her spear at Nathan. With surprising agility, Nathan caught the spear mid-air, glancing at the sharp point in astonishment. The world around him paused for a moment. The spear sat firmly in his grasp, and he stared into the eyes of the Emerald Warrior. "I mean no harm," he said, raising his hands slowly. Lyra, shocked by his reflexes, was torn between anger and curiosity. She sensed he was not like the others who had invaded their land. "What brings you to Zathara, human?" she demanded, her voice steady but intrigued. Nathan explained their crash and their search for shelter. He spoke of Earth, of kindness, and how they did not wish to harm her people. Lyra listened, her warrior's heart slowly softening. The ancient laws decreed that if a warrior's weapon was caught by the intended target, the two would be bound by an oath, one that transcended their differences. "By the law of my ancestors," she began, her voice stronger now. "You have caught my spear. This binds us. You are mine forever, and I am yours." Nathan's eyes widened in disbelief. "Forever," he repeated, unsure of what this truly meant. "Yes," she confirmed. "You must join my clan, and we shall protect each other. Your arrival signifies something important, perhaps a change for both our worlds." Nathan pondered the thought, noticing how bright Lyra's eyes glimmered under the starlit sky. After a short moment of silence, Nathan looked around, remembering his friends. "Does this binding include my companions?" he asked. "They are part of my journey." Lyra considered this. "Yes, if they too are willing to accept our law, they may join us." Nathan called for Sarah and John, who arrived cautiously, confused but hopeful. After explaining the situation, they agreed to partake in the ancient law as well, recognizing that survival meant unity. With the bond established, Lyra led them to her village. The sight was enchanting. Bioluminescent plants lit the pathways, and Zatharans gathered around a large communal fire. They greeted their warrior with cheers, unaware of the unexpected visitors joining their ranks. Lyra introduced Nathan, Sarah, and John, explaining the binding. While some were unsure of trusting outsiders, the village chief welcomed them, recognizing the significance of the moment. "Perhaps this is the beginning of a new alliance," he declared. Many villagers nodded, and the atmosphere shifted from suspicion to curiosity. As time passed, the group began to learn both cultures, sharing knowledge about their worlds. As the days turned into weeks, friendships grew. Nathan marveled at the ways of the Zatharans, how they respected nature, used their herbs for healing, and celebrated their victories with elaborate dances. In return, he shared stories of Earth, its technologies, and cultures, sparking an exchange of ideas. However, harmony was soon disrupted. A storm approached, fierce and wild, with lightning tearing the sky apart. Amid the chaos, strange creatures began to emerge from the forest, drawn by the energy of the storm. These beings, made of shadows, slithered toward the village, seeking havoc. Lyra and Nathan stood together, determination in their eyes. "We fight as one," she said, gripping her spear tightly, now enhanced by Nathan's understanding of strategy and teamwork. Sarah and John, using their tech-savvy skills, created traps around the village to protect their new home. As the creatures attacked, a fierce battle ensued. Lyra's spear danced in the air, while Nathan used a makeshift weapon crafted from metal, scraps found nearby. They fought side by side, each move blending into the other, their bond strengthening with every clash. Just when it seemed the tide of battle would turn in favor of darkness, the villagers joined in, inspired by the unity of their warrior and the human. Together, they fought brilliantly, their combined strengths creating a force that pushed back the shadow creatures. When the storm finally subsided, the village stood tall, and the Zatharans celebrated their victory. Nathan, Lyra, Sarah, and John were hailed as heroes. Under the clear sky filled with stars, Nathan turned to Lyra. "I didn't just catch your spear," he admitted. "I caught something much more precious, a new family." Lyra smiled, understanding the depth of their bond. From that day on, they embraced their differences and built a lasting alliance, a connection that would carry their stories through the ages. The ancient law had brought them together, and now they would face the universe as one united front, ready for new adventures. Together, they continued to explore Zathara, and in time, they would learn that love could bridge galaxies. War no longer separated them, but instead celebrated the vastness of their union. Forever entwined, Nathan and Lyra, alongside Sarah and John, found their place in both worlds, a tale destined to be told for generations. On the dusty planet of Xylos, Jax, a human explorer, stumbled upon a hidden valley. Giant, purple trees towered over him, their leaves shimmering with an ethereal glow. He'd been separated from his team during a sandstorm, his comms unit fried. He was alone, lost, and low on oxygen. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was tall and slender, with skin the color of amethyst and hair like spun moonlight. She was Xyla, a warrior of the Xylan people, a race he'd only read about in ancient texts. She carried a spear, its tip gleaming with an unknown energy. Jax, unarmed and vulnerable, froze. Xyla raised her spear. Jax braced himself for the inevitable. But instead of striking, she hurled the spear. It whizzed through the air, a blur of purple light. Jax reacted instinctively, catching the spear by the shaft. He felt a jolt, a surge of energy flowing through him. Xyla gasped. Her amethyst eyes widened. She spoke in a melodic language he didn't understand, but the tone was clearly one of astonishment. Then, she spoke a single word, a word that seemed to vibrate with ancient power. Bound. Jax, still, gripping the spear, felt a strange connection to the woman before him. It wasn't just physical. It was a deep, primal bond that seemed to link their very souls. He looked at the spear. Strange symbols glowed faintly on its shaft. According to the ancient texts he'd read, this was it, the Xylan mating ritual. Catching the spear meant a binding, a lifelong union. Confused and slightly terrified, Jax looked around. He saw other Xylans emerge from the shadows, their faces a mixture of awe and apprehension. They spoke amongst themselves, their voices lilting and musical, their words a mystery to him. One, older and taller than the rest, stepped forward. She wore elaborate jewelry made of polished stones and strange metals. The elder Xyla spoke, her voice resonating with authority. She used a translator device Jax had miraculously managed to keep intact, a small silver disc that somehow still worked. "By ancient law," the translator crackled, "the catch of the spear binds you to Xylar. You are now mates, forever joined." Jax felt a rush of emotions. He was utterly stunned. This was not how he'd imagined finding love, let alone marriage. He'd always considered himself a confirmed bachelor, focused solely on his career as an explorer. Yet looking into Xylar's luminous eyes, he felt something he'd never felt before. A deep and undeniable connection. The other Xylans approached cautiously. They studied Jax, their amethyst eyes scrutinizing his every move. Some seemed wary, others curious. One brave young Xylar, a child, extended a hand hesitantly. Jax smiled, extending his own hand. The child giggled and touched his fingers, a gesture of acceptance. Xylar, ever the warrior, remained silent, but her expression softened. She approached Jax slowly, her eyes fixed on his. She laid a hand on his cheek, her touch surprisingly gentle. Then she lowered the spear, placing its tip gently on the ground. It pulsed with a soft light. Over the next few days, Jax learned about Xylar's people. He learned their customs, their history, their language. He learned that the Xylans were deeply connected to their planet, their lives intertwined with the rhythms of nature. They lived in harmony with the purple trees, drawing their energy from the planet itself. Their society was matriarchal, the women holding positions of power and authority. The warriors, like Xylar, were revered and respected. Jax, a man from a patriarchal society, found it fascinating and strangely liberating. He slowly began to understand the ancient laws, the deep significance of the spear ritual. It wasn't just a mating ritual. It was a union of souls, a promise of lifelong companionship. The days turned into weeks. Jax, once lost and alone, found himself part of a vibrant and welcoming community. He learned to hunt with the Xylans, to navigate the strange landscape, to appreciate the beauty of their world. He learned to speak their language, his initial confusion replaced by a fluent understanding. He discovered a hidden talent for Xylan calligraphy, his clumsy attempts slowly transforming into elegant script. He also learned more about Xylar herself. She was strong, independent, and fiercely loyal. She was also gentle, kind, and surprisingly funny. He discovered a shared love of stargazing, spending countless nights under the shimmering Xylo sky, sharing stories and dreams. The bond between them deepened, the initial shock giving way to something far more profound. The ancient law had bound them, but it was their growing affection and mutual respect that truly united them. Jax, once an outsider, found himself deeply in love with Xylar, the warrior woman who had hurled a spear at him and forever changed his life. He realized that fate sometimes works in mysterious and wonderful ways. The spear, a symbol of their binding, was now a testament to their enduring love, a symbol not of conquest, but of a life shared, a love forever bound by ancient law. The human explorer and the Xylan warrior, once worlds apart, were now a family, embraced by the ancient customs and the wonders of Xylos. In a distant galaxy, on a planet named Zephyria, there existed two factions. The peaceful Zephyrians, known for their advanced knowledge of science and technology, and the fierce Antraxians, a warrior race that valued strength and honor above all. The two groups rarely interacted, staying in their separate territories. One day, a young Zephyrian scientist named Milo ventured out to explore the outer fields of his planet. Known for his bright blue hair and curious nature, Milo often dreamed of grand adventures. As he wandered, he stumbled upon a forbidden area, marked with ancient symbols that warned of Antraxian presence. Suddenly, a shadow fell over him. Milo looked up to see a tall, imposing figure. It was an Antraxian warrior, clad in dark armor. Her face painted with impressive streaks of red and gold. She had fierce green eyes and short hair that stood along her scalp. Milo's heart raced, feeling both fear and curiosity about this alien. The warrior raised a spear high above her head. It shimmered with energy, and before Milo could react, she hurled it towards him. It caught the light as it flew, and the air shimmered around it. Instinct took over. With a swift movement, Milo caught the spear in mid-air. Both the warrior and Milo stood frozen in disbelief. They were equally surprised by the unexpected turn of events. "What have you done?" the warrior exclaimed, her voice powerful and strong, yet somehow soft. I caught your spear," Milo replied, astonished by his own courage. "In my culture, to catch a spear thrown at you binds our fates. You are now mine, and I am yours," she said sternly. "This is the way of the ancient law." Milo's mind raced. "Does that mean we're bound together forever?" he asked, half in awe and half in panic. The warrior nodded, lowering her spear. "Yes, my name is Kira, and you must come with me. We must leave this place." Milo was hesitant, but the thought of adventure captivated him. "Okay, but I need to tell my family," he said, realizing this was the biggest choice of his life. Kira's expression softened. "You have a day. After that, the bond will draw us together, no matter where we are." Milo rushed home, excitement bubbling inside him. His family was shocked when he explained what had happened. They worried about the Antraxians, but Milo's adventurous spirit shone through. "I have to go. This is my chance to see the world beyond," he insisted. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over Zephyria, Milo returned to the spot where he first met Kira. She stood waiting, her eyes reflecting the orange light. "Are you ready?" she asked. "Yes," Milo replied, feeling a mix of nervousness and thrill. She gestured for him to follow. Together they entered the dense forest that curled around the land. Kira moved with confidence, leading Milo deeper into Antraxian territory. The trees were tall and strange, buzzing with life. Milo gazed at the colors and sounds, completely enchanted. As they traveled, Kira taught him about her people. She explained their code of honor and the way battles were fought. She spoke of her dreams as a warrior, to protect her people while seeking honor in battle. Milo shared stories of Zephyria's technology and his dreams of inventions that could change the world. As night fell, they reached a hidden valley filled with glowing plants and creatures that danced in the darkness. "This is a sacred place," Kira said. "Only few have seen it." They sat on a rock overlooking the valley, feeling the warmth of the air around them. A strange bond began to form. Despite their differences, they laughed and shared stories, their initial fear melting away. But trouble loomed. A faction within the Antraxians, led by a fierce leader named Dragor, believed in strength through combat. He felt threatened by Kira's bond with a Zephyrian. "You bring shame to our kind, Kira," Dragor roared upon finding them. His warriors surrounded the valley, all eyes fierce and calculating. "We are bound by ancient law," Kira declared boldly. "This does not bring shame, it brings strength." Dragor's laugh echoed through the valley. "You are a traitor. I challenge this bond. We shall see if he's worthy." Milo's heart raced. "What does that mean?" he asked, genuinely afraid. "It means I must prove your worth," Kira said, her face fierce with determination. "You must stand with me in battle." Milo had never fought before and turned to Kira. "What if I'm not strong enough?" Kira laid a hand on his shoulder. "Let me teach you. We will fight together." The two trained through the night, Kira teaching Milo combat techniques and how to wield the spear. As the first light of dawn broke, Milo felt a strange surge of confidence. The sun rose higher, and the two faced Dragor and his warriors. The atmosphere thickened with tension. Milo's heart thumped loudly in his chest. Kira and Milo stood side by side, ready to defend their bond. "Prepare yourself, Zephyrian!" Dragor shouted, charging forward. Kira stepped in front of Milo, blocking the path. "You will face us both," she declared. The battle began. Milo used his agility to dodge and duck while Kira fought fiercely, leading the charge. Together, they moved in harmony, surprising everyone. As the battle raged, the tide began to turn. Milo spotted an opening and seized the moment, managing to disarm one of Dragor's warriors. Their bond grew stronger as they moved together, Finally, in a final clash, Kira and Milo faced Dragor. "Yield!" Kira shouted, today's sun hot behind her. Dragor hesitated, realizing their strength together. "This bond, it is powerful." He lowered his weapon. With that, the battle ended, and Kira and Milo had proven their worth. The sun set once more. Kira turned to Milo. Her fierce spirit softened. "By ancient law, we are bound. Together, we protect our peoples." Milo smiled, understanding now that their bond was more than law. It was a new beginning. Together, the Zephyrian scientist and Antraxian warrior would write a new story for their worlds, united against the challenges ahead. They walked forward hand in hand, ready to explore their futures together. The rusty red dust swirled around Jax's boots as he surveyed the desolate landscape of Xylos. He was a scout, the best the human colony had, known for his uncanny ability to blend into any environment. His mission: locate the rumored Xylosian artifacts, powerful relics said to hold the key to faster-than-light travel. But he hadn't expected to find a warrior. She appeared suddenly, a blur of turquoise scales and sharp angles against the crimson sky. Her armor, crafted from some unknown metal, shimmered with an internal light. In her hand, she held a spear, its tip glinting menacingly in the weak sunlight. She was Xylosian, one of the legendary alien race whispered about in hushed tones back on Earth. Jax had studied the Xylosian language, painstakingly deciphering fragments of their ancient tongue found etched onto recovered artifacts. He understood, enough to know she wasn't friendly. He held up his hands, palms open, a gesture of peace he'd learned from the old anthropological records. The Xylosian warrior remained unmoved, her eyes like molten gold, fixed on him. She hissed a word, a sharp, guttural sound, and hurled the spear. It flew with astonishing speed, a blur of metal and death. Jax reacted instinctively, his years of training kicking in. He caught the spear, the force of the throw nearly wrenching his arm from its socket. He held it firm, the point inches from his chest. Silence descended, broken only by the wind whistling through the canyons. The warrior stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then she spoke, her voice a low, melodic hum that resonated in Jax's chest. He understood her words, though he hadn't expected to. She spoke of an ancient law, a tradition so old it predated recorded history. The law stated that if a Xylosian warrior threw a spear, and it was caught, then the catcher and the thrower were bound forever. They were mates. He was hers. Jax found himself in an impossible situation. He was a human, bound by ancient Xylosian law to a warrior who was clearly hostile, just moments ago attempting to kill him. He looked at the spear, its metallic surface cool against his calloused skin. He felt a strange pull, a sense of acceptance. A group of other Xylosians emerged from behind a rocky outcrop, their armor gleaming under the weak sun. Their expressions were mixed, curiosity, wariness, and a strange kind of excitement. Their leader, a towering figure adorned with elaborate plumage, stepped forward. He spoke to the female warrior, and the words, though he didn't understand, them completely seemed to convey a sense of amazement and some hesitation. The warrior's golden eyes shifted from Jax to her leader, then back to him. She spoke again, this time addressing the leader directly, her words carrying a low intensity that suggested resistance. The leader responded with a series of slow, deliberate gestures, illustrating points with his hands as he spoke. Days turned into weeks. Jax learned more about the Xylosian culture. He discovered their society was intensely spiritual, deeply connected to the planet itself. Their technology, advanced as it was interwoven with a profound understanding of natural laws. They used energy drawn from their planet, manipulated it through unique biomechanical technology, creating sophisticated weapons and machines that looked more like organic growth than manufactured devices. He also learned more about his own situation. The female warrior, whose name he eventually learned was Lyra, was considered a high-ranking member of her tribe. She was a skilled hunter, a fierce protector of her people. Her hesitation wasn't toward the mating bond itself, but toward the implications of binding herself to a human, an outsider. The deep-seated prejudices within her tribe were hard to overcome. Subscribe my channel to get next part.